The minister still undecided and evasive.
No. I'm not saying anything on BT Brinjal right now. Right now, I'm only in hearing mode. I'm listening. I'm reading.
The opposition demanding transparency.
Unless until that large consensus is built up, I think the government should refrain from taking any action.
A storm in India, the effects abroad as farmers, scientists and environmentalists push the panic button in the hope that BT Brinjal is nipped in the bud. With Bureau Inputs, Talai Lorry for Times Now.
Well, so the minister has set himself a 10-day self-imposed deadline. He says in 10 days I'm going to decide whether this country will have BT Brinjal growing or not. We have two sides of the debate as usual on the news hour this evening. I have with me from Lucknow, well-known environmentalist, in fact the person who's seen as a one-woman army against genetically modified crops in India, Vandana Shiva, well-known environmentalist. Welcome. Also with us from Bangalore, someone who leads one of the few companies in India which have got their own technology in terms of genetically modified crop, Managing Director of Metahelix Life Sciences, Dr. K. Narayanan. First argument to you tonight. Vandana Shiva, those who support genetically modified food and genetically modified crops say people like Vandana Shiva give out emotional and shrill arguments that have no scientific basis. May I begin by asking you tonight to argue on the one or two most important scientific reasons why you oppose genetically modified food, and then I'll get a reaction from Dr. Narayanan.
Well, the first scientific reason is that the very founders of these tools, the ability to move genes across species boundaries, called a meeting in 1975 in Asilomar. And they put a self-imposed moratorium saying we don't know the consequences. They specifically asked for a ban on experimentation with genes that produce toxins like the BT and genes that build antibiotic resistance, the two genes that have been used in the transgenic BT Brinjal. So I am basically following the scientific tradition of the founders of modern molecular biology and genetic engineering, and those who support BT are betraying their own honest science. The second reason I am critical of genetic engineering in the way it is being unleashed on the world is because in 1992 we worked very hard to get a Convention on Biological Diversity. Article 19.3 of this convention gave the world a biosafety regulation. All governments of the world were not foolish to say this is a technology that needs regulation. They had looked at the science, seen the risks, and required that there be independent assessment before commercial releases.
But this, with all respect, Ms. Shiva, this entire proposal to commercially introduce genetically modified brinjal in India has been approved by the government-approved biotechnology regulator, the GEAC. Surely you're not saying that they are sold out?
They are sold out, and unfortunately the very chairman of the committee admitted, that there is pressure on him. There were other members of the committee like Dr. Pushpa Bhargav who said that the tests are not complete. Unfortunately, one of the worst things that happened after 1992 was that President Bush of that time, the senior Bush, put in place a principle called substantial equivalence. Said when it comes to safety, look at the naturally occurring organism. The tests that have been done on BT Brinjal had looked at the naturally occurring microbial BT, not the transgenic BT produced by the plant along with the antibiotic resistance, along with the viral promoters.
Dr. Narayanan, simple question to you tonight. A, rebut if you can, Vandana Shiva, on a scientific basis. B, answer a simple question of mine. Why brinjal? And why India? We are the world's second largest brinjal producer. There is no shortage of brinjal. There are in fact 2,500 varieties of brinjal in India. Why do we need an American company to come and sell us a new variety?
Sure, let me first try to rebut Dr. Vandana Shiva. We are in 2010 now, but I am amused that she continues to live in the 1970s. It's true that at that time scientists put a moratorium to really understand the consequences of genetic modification. Lot of water has flown below the bridge since then, and after a few years of thorough study, they have decided that this is a very safe technology and we should go ahead with using these technologies wherever tangible benefits for humankind, for the environment, for the animals are seen. See, the BRITI protein, which acts against the insect, has been in use for more than a century. It was discovered sometime in the early 1900s. People have used the bacteria containing this protein as a pesticide. In fact, it will be interesting for you to know that it is used, even still today, used as a spray and recommended for organically certified agriculture.
Specifically, Dr. Narayanan.
GMO crops which produce this protein.
But that's the whole point. It's used organically. Why put a transgene with new hazards of antibiotic resistance markers, viral promoters, agrobacterium? Why?
Sure, the reason is now the plant produces the protein because this gene from the bacteria has been spliced into the plant genome, and the plant acts against the insect only when the insect tries to damage the plant. Now, coming specifically to BT brinjal.
So one second, are you satisfied with that? One second, are you satisfied with that, Vandana Shiva?
For India.
Now, are you satisfied with that, Vandana Shiva?
No, I'm not. I'm not, because first he's admitting that the naturally occurring BT is a safe pest control agent. It's been approved in organic pest control. The transgenic BT is no more safe because it's no more an endotoxin, which the naturally occurring BT is. Now it's a ready-made active toxin. Plants behave very differently from bacteria. Bacteria don't produce sugars, plants do. Sugars increase allergenicity. So the idea that the naturally occurring is equal to the transgene, that's the first scientific lie. Every one of these scientists who's looking for a big and fast buck at the cost of nature, that's the lie.
You are making a strong allegation tonight, saying
I'm afraid
of a quick and fast buck. Question. No, I have a question for you, Dr. Narayan. Tell me tonight and tell Vandana Shiva and tell all our viewers on the news hour tonight.
No, I just want to rebut that.
No, is there something called a BT toxin, which is produced in BT brinjal?
Okay, I'm afraid.
Which is also present in BT cotton?
I'm afraid Dr. Vandana Shiva is being extremely economical with the truth and the scientific truth. The fact is that the
I'm just saying substantial equivalence is a false principle. Every scientist worth their salt recognizes it.
Okay, let him respond, Ms. Shiva. I'm coming back to you. You'll have your turn next. I just want Dr. Narayanan to respond to you. Go on, respond, Dr. Narayanan.
See, the BT cotton plant produces the protein in very, very small amounts, and it affects the insect only when it tries to attack the plant. In brinjal, lot of chemical pesticides are used to control the insect pest. I don't understand why anybody who wouldn't like pesticides in one's food would oppose such a technology which can lead to significant reduction in pesticide use.
My concern is
in a vegetable like brinjal.
My concern is here. I have a genuine concern, and the principal concern that is being expressed here tonight, and Dr. Vandana Shiva and Dr. Narayan, that question goes to you. There are 85,50,200 tons of brinjal produced in India annually, 2,500 varieties of brinjal. Why should India have to go to Monsanto, DuPont, Bayer, Dow or Syngenta to go and get brinjal? I mean, why do we need these companies to give us brinjal? Are we being used? No. Why don't they do this in America?
First of all, let's
why don't they do this in America?
Let's look at the fact, Arnab, I want to point out the facts here. The BT brinjal has been developed by Mahiko, where Monsanto has a minority stake. It is also being developed by two public institutions. One is the University of Dharwad in Karnataka and the Tamil Nadu Agriculture University. So it would not be fair to say it is a Monsanto technology.
Sir,
And the use of this technology
But
will be most relevant in a country like India, which is the second largest producer of brinjal.
there's no
And
shortage of
where
brinjal.
Pesticide residues in vegetables, there's a serious problem for the consumers.
No, I don't know. There's no shortage of brinjal. You're creating a dependency. A dependency. Whether it's a... Yes, Ms. Shiva, go on.
No, that led
Well, there are
what's
two
happening
things.
is the cost of
There's an
production, number one.
inconsistency.
The cost
There's
to the
an
environment.
inconsistency in what is being stated. On the one hand, it's being said that the naturally occurring natural microbe is inefficient, and therefore we will put the toxin with a high dose toxin into the BT. Then they say it's a very low dose. If it's low dose and it's so little, why don't you leave it to the naturally occurring bacterium? Second, for the doctor to say that someone like me who has built the organic movement in this country tried to get rid of pesticides, and now we want to get rid of the GM pesticide which is now built into the plant. We are efficient in controlling pests, including the shoot borer. Only one insect they are addressing. It's not even a significant pest in aubergine, in brinjal. In the case of BT cotton, it was also said that the BT cotton would control the bollworm. You now have a triple resistant bollworm, and we have a 13-fold increase in pesticide in Vidarbha.
No, but it can be argued. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Vandana Shiva, it will say it will cut the cost of cultivation. Argument. It will increase yield.
No, it can't cut the cost of cultivation because it is a patented seed. The seed costs on cotton in BT jumped from 7 rupees to 1700 rupees when the BT was introduced. It was dropped by the Supreme Court. Monsanto and Mahiko have patented this seed. They're not bringing this for the Indian people. They're bringing it for their royalties. They're bringing it in for their royalties, and the universities he has mentioned are financed by a USAID project. This is not an Indian evolution. It is a US imposition of Monsanto and the government of the US.
Okay, now is this or is this not? Dr. Narayanan, is it true that all the research in the universities you mentioned are funded by the US government, run by US corporations, which want to regulate seed supply, which is restricted and costly, and hence the entire food chain in India becomes dependent on America like never before? It's against the basic principles on which food self-sufficiency in India has been achieved.
I am amused that somebody is putting forth such an argument that, I think the people in the universities, they are also competent scientists, they are able to think for themselves. Let us grant them some wisdom which they actually possess. But more importantly, I want to state the final arbiter of all such technologies, whether it will succeed in this country or not, is the farmers in this country. Let us grant them
Then
the
why are they
wisdom that they actually
protesting?
possess.
Then why are they protesting in Chandigarh and Hyderabad and Bangalore? Why?
We need to say why is it that
farmers have spoken.
almost more than 80% of cotton farmers in this country have adopted BT cotton? Why is it
Only
that
because you
cotton
destroyed the
production in this country
alternative.
between 2002 and now has increased from... No, Dr. Vandana Shiva, you should put your money where your mouth is. If you think non-BT cotton is better than BT cotton, please produce non-BT cotton and sell it
where my
and
mouth
distribute
is.
it.
We do organic cotton. We help farmers grow organic cotton, and the organic cotton farmers are earning 10 times more than the BT cotton farmers there because they're not being looted by Monsanto and Mahiko. The farmers are taught caught in a debt trap. The only reason they're using BT is all alternatives have been destroyed. There is no non-BT seed left in those areas.
Okay.
A monopoly and a monoculture means no
What I'm
alternative.
saying is that
I believe in what I'm
90% of
saying.
cotton- because it's more
If they
economical.
were making
They are saving on
If they were
pesticides.
making more money, why are they committing suicide?
And our cotton
Why
production
are
has
the
increased,
highest
cotton production
rates
has
of
increased.
suicide in the areas where BT cotton is sold? This is a suicidal path for the
specious
farmers.
argument.
A
Let me tell you,
non-alternative is
cotton
not a
farmers, not
choice.
just cotton farmers. Farmers are committing suicide in Wayanad.
Now,
where there are no farmer
That's because of WTO and dumping.
Why do you blame everything
Because
on
of
BT
dumping.
cotton?
I'm going to,
No, I think that is not correct.
no, I see, we can get into
The price fall after the WTO led to the farmer suicide in Wayanad.
But
in the cotton areas, 84% suicides are directly linked to the purchase of BT
that
cotton
should
seed.
be Sharad
in a
Pawar's
monopolistic
concern.
condition.
Well, that should be Sharad Pawar's concern.
It should.
That should be Jairam Ramesh's concern. But I must say here, only for want of time and with full awareness, Dr. Narayanan and Vandana Shiva, that this debate is not going to be an easy one to settle, because Jairam Ramesh should know he doesn't hold the key alone. The people of this country will eventually determine what is good technology for them. Should he have put this deadline? Can you wrap up something like this in 9 days when you've been talking about it for so many years? We don't know, but whether or not this means Indian farmers will be held hostage is going to be a subject of another debate. I'm going to call you back for that debate. Vandana Shiva and Dr. Narayanan for participating in this on the News Hour tonight. Thank you very much. Well, there are valid points from both sides. We're not taking a position on this, but Jairam Ramesh knows that debate is going to carry on. Will he be able to complete it in 9 days? Seems tough. Well, coming up on later on the News Hour tonight, in fact, that's our next news report which will be coming up, is the bizarre situation that we have in Meghalaya. Which one of these is the Chief Minister? We don't know. The state has not one, not two, not three, but effectively 4 Chief Ministers. This situation seems to have developed this way because the Congress has been forced to accommodate 4 men with king-size egos who've literally held the people and the party to ransom.
You know him as the sworn-in Chief Minister of Meghalaya. But wait, here's how the list goes. Chief Minister number 1 and then number 2. Wait, there are 3 and 4 as well. Yes, you are looking at 4 people who enjoy the Chief Minister rank. Which essentially means that for the 28 ruling party members of the Congress, there's about 1 Chief Minister for 7 Congress legislators.
Now there are 2 issues which are involved. One, a constitutional issue, that can somebody be given the rank of a Chief Minister? I do not think constitutionally that is impermissible.
Let us be clear that in Meghalaya and under the constitution there is and can be only 1 Chief Minister. There is no question of 2 or 3 Chief Ministers. There is 1 Chief Minister.
While the Congress not coming clean, one of the 4 chosen ones seems to be following the brief.
Our Chief Minister is so kind that he, by granting this status to me, she is his recognition perhaps of my service.
And there is no conflict at all. I am a Chief Minister. I simply facilitate them to be more mobile by giving the facilities and the status.
This essentially means that the state might just be spending 4 times over to keep the flock happy, and having more than 1 person to represent that flock. But like they say, too many cooks might just spoil this broth. Bureau Report, Times Now.
21 governments in 38 years, now 4 Chief Ministers in a 60-member House. Dr. Singh, with all due respect to you tonight, you cannot justify this absurdity that your party has allowed in Meghalaya.
Arnab, let me put it very quickly in perspective. I agree with you, it's unusual to have the designation of the rank of a Chief Minister for a person other than the Chief Minister. But just consider, all that is intended to mean is that functionally, in terms of decision-making power, in terms of holding of the post, there is only 1 Chief Minister, constitutionally and factually in Meghalaya. Other persons are given perks, privileges and security and other issues equal to that which a Chief Minister gets, and therefore they are called people with Chief Ministerial rank. I agree with you, the nomenclature is peculiar.
No, Dr. Singhvi.
Please don't think in substance terms or functional terms of changing anything.
Dr. Singhvi,
functional terms doesn't change anything.
Dr. Singhvi, you are a lawyer, you are arguing it legally. The question here is tonight, it's not an issue of jurisprudence. And even in jurisprudence, the question is precedent. Will you tomorrow have, 4 or 5 Chief Ministers? Tomorrow if in Maharashtra people say, I think I deserve as much space as for example, Ashok Chavan. So would you say, okay, let's have a second person with Chief Minister rank? This is a dangerous precedent
Arnab,
that you are setting.
Arnab, I am certainly not at all arguing law or jurisprudence. When you say, do you have 4 chief ministers? That's the question you just asked. Inbuilt in your question is the issue and partly the fallacy. There are no 4 chief ministers.
There are
no 2 chief ministers. No, there are not.
So there are
only one chief minister. That's the point I'm repeating.
Sir,
one man alone can decide as per the constitution. Heading the Council of Ministers can take decisions.
So this is a chaotic situation.
Get the perks.
No, Dr. Singhvi.
You know very well, all over India, there are people with cabinet rank who are not actually cabinet ministers. There are people with deputy chief minister rank who are not deputy chief ministers.
Dr. Singhvi, he has
yes,
been...
it is peculiar that you have a chief minister.
No, Dr. Singhvi. No, Dr. Singhvi, 60-member house. There are 4 people, Didi Lapang, Friday Lingdo, Dongkupa Roy, J.D. Rimbai. Because the Congress party cannot decide, and she's thrown and thrust upon the people of Meghalaya, and hence across the roads of Shillong today, you will have 4 people with 4 kinds of security, 4 kinds of sets of emoluments, perks. Basically, you are massaging their egos. Politics, Dr. Singhvi, is about serving the people. It is not about massaging the king-size egos of your regional satraps.
In an ideal situation, quite frankly, I'd agree with you. But this is a peculiarity in the context of political exigencies and a certain amount of political instability which has prevailed in that state.
Sir, today,
that's the truth of the matter.
Don't you feel,
I am not denying it.
Don't you feel?
And that truth,
don't you feel?
No, just 1 minute. That truth means that you need to ensure that a certain amount of stability continues. There may be issues which would not happen in other states. Remember, it's a small state, and therefore the restriction of 50%.
No, Dr. Singhvi, what kind of, with our utmost respect, my last question to you tonight is, you are not convinced about this yourself, Dr. Singhvi. What stability is this that is bought on the altar of political appeasement, where you have to have 1 chief minister for every 7 MLAs? This is not stability.
No, I am convinced about one thing. I am convinced on one thing which I am repeating. There is no 4 chief ministers. Yes, there is the peculiarity of 4 persons having the perks and privileges of a chief minister rank. There is functionally, decision-making wise, only 1 chief minister. Now, I wish there was not that peculiarity. I agree with you. But then there is there. But please don't think there are 4 people running the state.
We don't know what's going on, Dr. Smith. Frankly, we don't know who's running Meghalaya right now. We know that there are 4 super-sized egos traveling in 4 chief ministerial convoys with all the security and perks that chief ministers get, and that smile is giving it away, Dr. Singhvi, because you know that on this one, it's a violation of propriety, not of the rules, but of propriety. But Dr. Singhvi, I'll let you go on that one. Let you go on that one. I know you agree with me. Thank you very much. Abhishek.
No. Please don't treat my silence as consent. Please treat my silence as consent. Okay?
Dr. Singhvi, you're smiling. And I'll leave it at that. Television is transparent, people can see for themselves. Okay, Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, thank you. On the other side tonight, television is so transparent that when Shahid Afridi thought he could get away with it, there were 5 cameras capturing this movement that now he says he was smelling the ball. What's going on? That's ravaging all cricket rules. We are debating that on the other side in 2 minutes tonight.